Hello everyone, my name is Jyotinder and you're watching the first video on my YouTube channel Tech Hunger. This video is going to be about Apple's latest mobile operating system iOS 15. We will talk about some of its biggest features and whether or not it's worth the upgrade. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright then, let's start off with the home screen changes. There are no major visual changes that you see on the home screen. However, there are a few nifty features that will make your life much more easier. Like this one here, if you press the dots at the bottom of the screen and go into the jiggle mode, you now have the ability to rearrange your pages just like it was available on the iPad earlier. Next, we have the ability to drag and drop items from one app to another. For example, if I go into the Photos app and select a few photos at random and then navigate to some other app, let's say Notes, we can now drop these photos over here and they will get pasted. It's a quite useful feature, especially if you are using a lot of productivity based apps on your phone. You can now place multiple icons for the same app on your home screen. You can see I have my work apps like Word and Outlook in a folder on this page, but I also have the same apps on a separate page dedicated to work, which I actually use in conjunction with the focus feature. We'll come to the focus feature very soon. Next on the list is Spotlight Search. It's now accessible even from your lock screen. However, you can disable that if you don't like it. Some of the features added to Spotlight in this version of iOS make it a really useful tool. Results are much more richer and very well structured. It can now even provide social media links and images from the web based on your search. But the thing that makes it stand out has to be its ability to make use of information from your photos. Now, if I search for payments, I get all the photos that contain the keyword payment. Or if I just want to search for photos that I clicked on a certain date or at a certain location, let's say Pimpri, Spotlight can now do all of that for you. Now let's shift the focus to FaceTime. Apple users now finally have the ability to make FaceTime calls to their non-Apple counterparts, aka the Android and the Windows users of the world. Now Apple did not suddenly had a change of heart and decided to make FaceTime a cross-platform app. So no, Android users cannot go ahead and download the FaceTime app. Apple prizes its ecosystem too much to do something like that. Instead, what it has done is to add this create link button, which will create a link which can be shared with anyone who can then join the FaceTime call using their web browser. Another thing that is new is the ability to switch to portrait mode in FaceTime calls. Also, you can zoom in and out of the FaceTime call using your back camera. Another really useful feature is a mic mode which can be accessed from the control center whenever you are using your microphone. And this works not just with a FaceTime app but with any app that makes use of your microphone. Now, your iPhone microphone can be set to these three different modes. Standard, as the name suggests, is nothing special and is your bare minimum regular mode. Voice isolation is the one where your voice will be isolated from the background noise and should come in handy in a country like India. I have tried this feature and trust me, it works really great. Wide spectrum is the opposite of voice isolation, wherein you want to boost background noise. Not as useful as voice isolation, but may be useful for specific people under specific circumstances. Another feature related to mic and FaceTime is the mute notifications. Now you get a notification if you are speaking on mute on a FaceTime call. Nothing earth-shattering here. Apart from all of these features which are already built into iOS 15, there is another feature called SharePlay, which is going to be a game changer and is supposed to come out soon with a software update. SharePlay is basically Apple's version of party mode. So all the FaceTime participants can play a song or watch a movie at the same time. Not just that, all of them can control the media, that is play, pause, forward or rewind, and the same effect will take place on everyone's phone. Pretty cool, huh? Sharing of iPhone and iPad screens would also be enabled as part of the SharePlay feature whenever it comes out. All in all, it's a pretty good upgrade for FaceTime in iOS 15, especially the ability to make FaceTime calls outside the Apple world. Now, Weather app is one of the few areas where we can see major visual changes. Animations based on weather and time of the day are simply beautiful. If you scroll down, now we have a nice animation for precipitation for the next 12 hours. There are some other nice graphics showing the temperature and the air quality index in your area. However, I find the precipitation animation to be the most useful amongst these. Everything in the app now looks so much more beautiful. Even the 10-day forecast is much more readable and the new glyph icons look amazing. Further down, we have a lot more information, starting with the UV index, the sunrise and the sunset timings, wind speed and direction, rainfall, temperature, humidity, visibility, and even pressure. A lot in the new weather app has been taken from the dark sky app that Apple recently bought. At least this justifies its demise on Android. Somewhat. Hit the like button if you know what I am talking about. Moving on to one of the most useful feature in the entire iOS 15, live text. You can now simply point your camera to a text in real world and it will not just detect the text but will also allow you to copy and paste the text elsewhere. What's more, you can even translate the text to English and a few other supported languages. Live text is not just limited to your camera, it's everywhere. It can be used to scan the text in your images, or you can do the same for the images on a web page. However, keep in mind this feature will only be available for iPhones having A12 Bionic and above. So all iPhones after the XS should be able to use this feature. The camera in iOS 15 now captures a lot more metadata. Apart from just the location and time, you can now see what device it was captured on, using what kind of lens, including the focus and aperture information. Next up is the change in memories. With the new update, you can now choose the kind of music that you want. You can even choose a song from your Apple Music library to go along with the memory. Then there is the setting to adjust the visual look and feel of your memories as well. If you want to manage the photos inside the memory, you can do that too. Last in this section, we have an India-specific feature. You can now use your camera to scan any UPI QR code and an icon will pop up on your screen. You can click on it and directly jump into your payment app and complete your transaction from there. It's a pretty neat feature and it makes me happy knowing that Apple is finally taking the Indian market seriously and is not developing features exclusively for India. Remember when I said you can now place multiple app icons on the home screen and I use it in conjunction with the focus feature? Let's talk about that. In your control center where you used to see do not disturb mode previously, you now have the focus mode. It's basically do not disturb mode on steroids. If you press on it, you can see different profiles to choose from. You can select who all can still reach out to you and what apps can still send notifications while you are in this particular focus mode. You can also share your focus mode with other Apple users and they will be able to see this notification on their iMessage. So they are aware that you are focusing on something. Then we have the option to select a specific home screen for this focus mode. Here you can see the focus mode in action. If you select, say, the health mode, you would only see pages relevant to that mode which you would have selected at the time of setting up this mode. Now, this is really useful and that's how I am using the dedicated pages for work and health which you saw earlier on my home screen, corresponding to their respective focus modes. However, I find it a bit limiting. Although you can select a particular page or pages where you have the relevant apps, but for this to work you have to set the pages in advance like I have done here for different focus modes. It would have been really great if instead of choosing particular pages, Apple would have simply given the option to choose the apps that you want to display on home screen in this focus mode. Apple's approach, in my opinion, is not the best from a user experience perspective. But that's just me. Don't get me wrong. It's a great feature, but just that there could have been a much better way to implement this in my opinion. Apple has also given you the option to integrate automations with the different focus modes. You can choose the time when this mode can be automatically triggered or if it needs to be triggered at a particular location. Example, trigger the work profile as soon as you are in the vicinity of your office, etc. You would be able to set the focus mode across your Apple devices. If you set focus on one device, it will automatically be set to your other devices. I find it really convenient. Also, if you guys are interested in a review of all the new iPadOS 15 updates, then stay tuned and subscribe to this channel as we are going to come up with that video very soon. Next up, we have Maps. There are a few new things to talk about in Maps, however, most of them won't make it to India just yet. There is the 3D view with street level details like lane, traffic lights, pedestrian crossing, etc. It can even show you trees in a park if you are looking for some shade. However, these are all limited to a few big cities in the US and UK at the moment. Maps now also provides richer information and is structured in a better manner, much like the Spotlight search. It can show you the images, a brief history, and now even some travel guides for the location that you searched for. Flyover. Now this feature might not be as useful, but it does look bloody cool. As the name suggests, it simply shows you how the city would look if you were to fly over it. Again, limited to a few select cities at the moment. However, it just looks so good that I couldn't stop myself from showing this to you guys. Hold on, I have a message. Oh, that's for you guys actually. With the new iOS upgrade, notifications have got a major upgrade as well. The notifications now have bigger logos, so it's much more easier on the eyes and gives more information at a glance. If you swipe left on the notification, you will now have all these options to modify notification behavior for a particular app. You can choose to mute notifications from an app for an hour or a day or turn it off altogether. Another really useful feature is the scheduled summary. If you find the plethora of notifications that you receive throughout the day to be annoying, then you are going to love this feature. With this, you can now schedule the notifications for the desired apps to be bunched together. You can choose to schedule a summary of these notifications at different times throughout the day. Scroll down and you can select which apps you want to choose. Showing the average number of notifications on daily basis for each app is a really nice touch and genuinely helps you in making the decision. This is how the notification summary looks. So no more annoying notifications throughout the day. Instead, you get a digest at regular intervals that you either choose to go through or simply dismiss if you wish to do so. Messages in iOS 15 has received quite a few updates. First up, we have the new carousel type display. When someone sends you multiple photographs in messages, instead of having to scroll your way through all the photos, you now get this slick looking stack of cards. You can either scroll through them or choose to view them in a grid. If there are a lesser number of pictures, in that case a different display style comes into the picture. There is another big feature by the name Shared with You. Now, although this is a feature of messages, but it works in symphony with a lot of the other apps. You would find this tab under Photos, Music, Apple TV, and even Safari. Based on the type of content shared with you in messages, it will appear under the Shared with You section of its corresponding app. You can see here all the photos shared with me over messages under the Shared with You tab in the Photos app. Next, we have a bunch of new options added to Memoji. There are new eyewear, headwear, and clothing options now available. You may want to check them out if Memojis are your thing. On this screen, you can see the message filters that have been added specifically for India. Given the large number of promotional and transaction messages that we get, I find this feature to be quite useful. Another feature that shows how important the Indian market is for Apple. Finally, we have the comeback of the loop. or simply the magnification bar which we used to have earlier while editing text on iPhones. I did not particularly miss this feature, but still it's good to have it back. Last but not the least, we have Safari. The biggest visual change in the updated version of Safari is the address bar, which has now been moved to the bottom of the screen to make it easily reachable, given the ever increasing size of our smartphones these days. Also, we now have the new swipe gestures. You can swipe left or right to move to the adjacent tab, just like you could do with Chrome for years now. Hmm. Now, if you don't like the new look, you can still revert back to the old look by clicking on this icon. And if you prefer the new look, you can always switch back to it. Another thing that's new is the tab groups. Click on the tabs button and you can then see your tab groups. Example, I have set a gadgets tab group with all the websites that I need for my tech updates. You can create a new group by clicking on this arrow in the middle and then selecting the new tab group option. Give it a name and you can now start adding different websites to this group. Another cool feature that has been added is the Safari extensions. You can now add extensions like AdBlock or a password manager. You can either search for Safari extensions in App Store or go to Safari settings, choose extensions and then more extensions. From here, you can install all the extensions that you need. Another visual change, as you might have already noticed, is the new start screen. Now we have a lot more information on the start screen and you can modify what you want to see. Here you have the option to choose Shared with You, which we discussed already, and it will show you all the links that have been shared with you in messages. Also, you now have the option to select a background from your start screen. Well, those were all the top noteworthy features from iOS 15. There are hundreds of other big and small changes that have been made to make your life easier. iOS 15 is low on the visual changes but big on delivering some really useful features like the live text, FaceTime changes, and even the improved Spotlight search. Now, whether or not you should upgrade, I feel you should. There is no real reason to hold back. There have been no major reports of battery or performance issues after this upgrade, and it's compatible with pretty much every iPhone out there, starting with the iPhone 6s. So, by all means, go for it. And that's it for this video. If you like to keep up with the latest trends in the world of technology and gadgets, do consider subscribing to my channel. And if you like this video, a thumbs up would be sublime. Thank you so much and see you next time.